Right turns are back in season for the Integrity Racing League, our first road course race of the campaign, our first of 4 on Tuesday nights, and while it's a familiar venue, it's a brand new layout. Just a few days ago, the Circuit of the Americas debuted their West layout, a slightly shorter variant of the iconic circuit in Austin, Texas, and for the first time tonight, we get to try it out live on FTN. Welcome back to COTA, Austin, Texas, the premier road course in the Lone Star State. And tonight, the Integrity OCTANE Series gets to bring its field of more than 35 drivers down south for an opportunity at a 47-lap Grand Prix. Tonight, the COTA West Grand Prix is due to begin in less than 10 minutes. Defending race winner in the Ignite Series, Ethan Lane, joins the remainder of the pack as they fight it toe-to-toe for the first time on a track that's a little bit more than just an oval. Welcome back live on FTN. I'll be your host for tonight. I'm David Kreutz, commentating and producing. Currently at the top of the board, nobody. Qualifying has only just begun, and drivers have 10 minutes to get themselves settled in tonight to take 2 laps. This 2.6-mile configuration is slightly longer than most ovals will head to on the season, but it is shorter than the last configuration we used for our COTA racing. Previously, we went to the full Grand Prix configuration, which was used in the NASCAR Cup Series from 2021 until last year. But tonight going to be a little bit different, so drivers, veterans, or rookies are getting themselves settled in for the very first time and taking their very first laps. 37 drivers have registered so far, more still expected to come. And with this opening of the qualifying session, everyone coming through the final of 16 turns and getting themselves ready for a lap. Blake Cannon, one of those we see going for his first lap this time by. Looks like now Eric Thornton in the number 99 takes that provisional pole. Chad Mikus and Kevin Bernheimer get up to the top, and so is the number 49 of Woody Mahan there, 138.21 for Woody, as Ethan Lane goes up to the top of the board once again. Lane is looking to sweep the week in the Integrity Racing League. He was able to win last night in the Ignite Series off the back of an amazing strategy run, but at the same time, of course, wasn't necessarily the dominant driver. There were many dominant drivers. He led the most laps, but he wasn't up there from start to finish. At a road course like the Circuit of the Americas, that's something that is necessary if you want to succeed. So Ethan Lane's approach definitely going to have to be different tonight, but by all means, he could be very successful as we come to pass 47 laps. These first 2 laps might be the most important for every driver now. Eric Thornton on the way. There's that number 99, of course. You see Eric making his moves in the Apex Racing Chevrolet Camaro. His practice laps were quick enough to get him top 10 on the board in the previous session, but he sits second now off the back of a strong first lap. We'll see whether or not he can continue improving, because for now he's got himself a good standing point, but it doesn't look like he's seen all his competition yet. Ryan Bean goes up to second on his first lap. Ryan coming away with his first ever top 10 run last Tuesday night, and we heard that he was expected to be one of those road course favorites. His teammates know very well that this is a driver to look out for. Across the line, Scott Eckridge goes for the pole position. That's on his second and final lap, so Eckridge goes P1 by a full second. Ethan Lane now coming across the line and looking to match, if not best that time. A 137.5 will not be improved upon for Lane. His final lap invalidated. He will not capture the pole, and right now it looks like Scott Eckridge takes it up to the top of the board, and he's got a real fair shot now keeping it. Ross Cato 26th to 8th on that qualifying lap. That'll push Ross inside of the top 10 with 4 minutes left. Still, half of this session remains. There's John DeBarro. John now going for his second of 2 laps, so he's got 1 extra shot to improve ever so slightly, but already the 61 in the upper echelon of the field. Nabarro's going to find himself final man in the top 10. You'll have Nolan Potter just ahead in the 34, Ross Cato, Eric Thornton, and Ryan Bean. Bean, again, is still going for his final lap and has a real chance of going up there and capturing the top spot. He was second in the practice standings previously, and he will be second now in qualifying. Ryan Bean across the line improves 9/10 of a second quicker. Good enough now with a 1:36.693 to grab second place. Only 23 thousandths off of his fastest time in practice, and so remarkable consistency early. Ryan gets it up to P2. Chad Dillon right now in the number 32. It looks like is slowly but surely limping across the track, getting warmed up. Blake Cannon goes ahead of Ethan Lane on his last lap. Blake, 137.2, good for P3. Now Sam Nieto's also on the way. Sam finished third earlier, of course, last night in the week, getting the job done for a top 3 finish. He wasn't all too happy with the performance, however, in large part because he felt it didn't come from that raw race pace, and instead it derived from saving fuel. It was a big strategy game at the very end of last night's event. Of course, racing once again at the Pocono Raceway, and the 2.5-mile track is never easy, but for Sam Nieto, he figured out the tricky triangle by doing something simple, just saving fuel and going for the long haul. Third place on the day, getting another good run and one of his very first ever top 5 finishes in the Ignite Series. Now, back to the series he's known since 2023. 21st on the timing board, and it looks like that's where he'll stand of 27 drivers who have taken a time. John Nabarro still getting this final warm-up lap through. He's already put his time in. Matt Sizzler here in the number 93 has a chance to improve. 22nd overall right now in the number 93 car. This Toyota Camry has a few more corners to figure out whether or not he too will make some gains or if he'll stay outside of the top 20. Top 10, the place to be when it comes to qualifying, and anything outside, especially that top 25, is going to have a load of trouble here. Across the line, it looks like Matt will gain ever so slightly, putting himself up 19th on the board as a result of that most recent run. Richard Smith now in the number 23 also gets things going. This will be Richard's first lap as he just got out on the circuit with 1 minute and 24 seconds remaining. And I don't think with that said he'll have enough time to complete his lap as he gets prepared. Jared Davis on the way as well, won't have the time. Chad Dillon now coming across the line still. Too little time for a lot of these drivers here, and it's notable that a lot of these guys are on their first lap. Nabarro isn't, but Richard Smith is. Jared Davis is already done and done. Looks like he did not get a validated time and will start at best 28th. Nieto's on pit road. Sean Kalist is too. Chad Dillon is hoping to finish things off, but it will be a miracle if he does so. Dillon in the number 32 right now, finding himself on his first lap, getting those few S's in, lefts and rights, backs and forth, and while I don't think he'll get a time in, getting that valuable extra practice before the race begins. That's going to be the difference between a driver who starts outside the top 25 without practice and making that mistake in the race, as Chad Dillon did, would be that much worse. Richard Smith now getting out of pit road one more time, but it's official now that qualifying has concluded. Not enough time left on the circuit, and it's about time now for the field to get set for 5 more minutes of practice. Qualifying is over, and Scott Eckrich gets it up to the top of the board. Ryan Bean and Blake Cannon make up the top 3. Boggy conditions here for our race in Austin, Texas. A few race condition information that you might like to know. Of course, not just including the weather, but also our race control. We are hoping not to have any yellow flags. Any full course yellows will not occur unless there's a big incident on the first lap. The race will remain green all night long for the course of 47 laps here in Austin, Texas. Ambient temperatures coming in at 65 degrees and a track temperature of 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Additionally, Relative humidity is very high, 96% as it stands, and it looks like that's the way it's going to stay, at least for the opening portion of this event. Not looking for things to change just yet, and hopefully the foggy conditions give way at the end of the night, but for now, going to be pretty hard to see looking all the way down. With that said, our starting grid is now put together. In just a few moments' time, they'll be assembled for a pace lap, but let's get to know the field as they are and see your starting grid for Austin, Texas. It'll be Scott Eckridge taking the position, of course, provisional pole turned into a reality. The number 70 is going to be inside of row number 1, and with them will be Ryan Bean in second place, and you'll have Blake Cannon starting third, and Ethan Lane position number 4. Fifth place will be Nicholas Ward, and Nick Tarbuck will then be P6, with 7th place immediately thereafter Kevin Bernheimer, Eric Thornton, Ross Cato, and Nolan Potter. Potter, the final driver inside the top 10, his lap time coming in as a 138.023, nearly 2 seconds off pole sitter Scott Eckridge. Then you'll have John Zabaro and Jacob Fife both within a 1/10 of a second, give or take, on Nolan Potter. That's for 12th, Jacob Fife, and 13th place is Cody Smith. Woody Mahan and Don Stevenson end out the top 15, with 16th Zach Scrintonall, Blake Gordon 17th, Chad Mikas 18th, Cody Smith now just ahead, Matt Sizzler 19th, and Nate Campbell P20. Brian Yazik, Sam Nieto, Bobby Keith, and Sean Kalist are going to find themselves ending the top 25 with Eli Cars, and it'll be Matt Jonas, Brock Potter, the final drivers to take times 26 and 27. Then from there, 28th place goes Jared Davis, the first driver without a time, Brad Patton 29th, and Aaron Eads, the last man in the top 30 without a qualifying time set. You'll see then Paul Nikolajczyk, who finds himself 33rd, 34th Josh Gallagher, 35th Richard Smith, Randy Fias 36th, and then you'll see 37th and 38th, the final drivers officially registered, Chad Dillon and Don Runkle. Qualifying from Austin, Texas has concluded, and we have ourselves 19 filled rows of drivers. Scott Eckridge in the number 70 takes his first career pole position. And perhaps a minor underperformance for Ethan Lane to not capture the pole position. He was the clear fastest driver in our previous practice session. Was not able to replicate that success in qualifying. Of course, not to say it was an unsuccessful qualifying run. He still finds himself inside the top 5, which most drivers, on pace anyway, would not possibly be able to capture. So, still a strong position, but I think Scott Eckridge, above all else, has the advantage over anyone. When you're that first place driver, you very rarely have to consider the drivers who are behind you, solely because if they're that far back, even if there is a chain reaction and a multi-car wreck, it's very hard for it to involve the drivers who are up and ahead. The back of the field and the middle of the field particularly see big issues, but otherwise, if you're that front driver, as long as you get away on your own, then there's absolutely no problem. And that's what Scott Eckridge is going to look for tonight. Qualifying position shows Ryan Bean, of course, in second. Bean finding himself P2. A great qualifying effort for a driver we're expecting good things out of. And there you have it, the 44 of Blake Cannon. Blake right now, P3 here, and he won last week in the Integrity Ignite Series, looking to bring it back to victory lane on the Tuesday nights. He won the Sonoma Grand Prix in the Ignite Series last year, his only road course race in this league so far. So he's got some expectations to live up to, already understanding that he's won in these circumstances before. But with the next gens, things are always different. Blake Cannon getting those final moments of practice in, and it looks like now, final warm-up is over. Fastest time going to be set in this session by the driver of, as you can see right here on your timing screen, the number 70 himself, Scott Eckridge, a 136.309, and your pole sitter again very fast to get himself warmed up. Checkered flag on your final warm-up session, and the green flag will fly on a very foggy Austin, Texas. Visibility as low as it's been all night long. There's the iRacing pace car, but you'll see a sea of gray all around the drivers. Relative humidity right now, 97%, and it's going to be very foggy. All things considered, we might be seeing more and more fog for the opening half of the race. 47 laps, no full course yellows anticipated, and drivers will have unlimited tire sets available to them as opposed to the usual limit of only 4. Now, as we've seen beforehand, road course racing does account for different conditions, and with the field being big, especially for a road course anyway, and 37 looking to start, and track conditions may be less than optimal now, it's best to give those tires away and have the drivers control their strategy from beginning to end, especially if mistakes are made, which we are expecting some now that the entire field is put together and getting set for their pace lap. While Scott Eckrich and Ryan Bean have themselves front row honors, they've got a lot of work cut out for both of themselves. Even though, of course, they've got good speed, they are rookies and they don't have the experience in the Integrity Racing League, which matters especially when considering these long-term endurance style events. You need respect and you need trust in a similar fashion to what you'd see at a superspeedway. While drivers won't be drafting with each other all night long, it is necessary to know who you can work with and who you can race cleanly around, especially given the fact that these are drivers, many of them anyway, who are getting their first try road course racing in the next gen in such a competitive environment. Ethan Lane and Blake Cannon are looking to bring back a familiar battle to the table. We saw them go at each other many a time in 2024 and even saw a little bit of that battle begin once again last week and last night in the Ignite Series. So old habits returning big time for those two rookies up and ahead who don't have the experience, but they certainly have the raw power. Further on back, you've got guys like Bernheimer and Thornton who have never been in this position either, or some veterans like Nick Tarbuck and Ross Cato who would love to come back to victory lane. The number 70 of Scott Eckrich has the honors tonight to bring the field to green from way down south. Everything's bigger in Texas, and tonight it's going to be a longer COTA race than we've ever seen before in the Integrity Racing League. 47 laps here in the Circuit of the Americas. We're underway and we're 3 wide for the race lead. Through turn 1, Ryan Bean to the point, and they're all over each other now heading downhill. It looks like some early mistakes for some of those front runners. Notably, Ryan Bean is going to head far back into the field. He now finds himself far out of the main pack and contending with the middle of the drivers. Of course, you saw the 26 diving deep into turn 1, and that turned out to be a significant mistake. Now, Ryan's going to find himself running in 23rd place as it stands, and he's looking to make his way back up as a result of sliding out of line on that initial turn. Moreover, we saw an issue for the number 13 of Blake Gordon. Gordon's going to come across the line this time through, and that number 13 is all the way back. It appears now that he's going to be running in 28th place at the line, barely inside the top 30, and he got contact and got sent through on the downhill run, and that's what got him in such a troublesome position. And we'll take a look right now. We'll show you what happened to the 13, because for Blake Gordon, it's a really bad position to be in now, especially with no cautions guaranteed. It looks like he's going to find himself working from the tail end on up. Here's a replay showing you contact for Blake Gordon. This 13 team is in trouble. See there, a nudge on the way in. There's Kevin Bernheimer, but then it was Nolan Potter in the number 34. And when that happened, it looked like there was no way out for the number 13. As such, Blake gets back on the way, and with minimal damage, he has a chance now to pick apart some drivers, one making a mistake right behind him. And it looks like now that was Sean Kalis. Kalis is going to be inside of the gravel here, gets himself back through, but he'll be outside the top 30 in just one foul swoop. Scott Eckridge to the point. He's got the race lead now over Blake Cannon and Ethan Lane. And two of those familiar veterans who are so great at these road courses. Well, for now, it looks like they're letting some of that new talent take hold. Up at the front of the field, new drivers reign supreme, but of course it's going to be that one and only of Scott Eckridge who got away cleanly, the cleanest of all. Kevin Bernheimer right now is going to find himself running in 6th place. Not at all a bad start for Kevin, who finds himself currently running just behind the top 5. And if it looks like for now that he's getting things started well, he's just got to hope to hit his marks and remain consistent. Consistency will be key throughout the night. That's something every driver has to focus on, just understanding what to do and when to do it. Not a lot of the times at these road courses is it beneficial to go all out, especially in the opening portion of a race. The first 20-25 laps tonight will likely not be spent looking actively for position, and instead, drivers will be trying to figure their strategy out and set themselves up well for the second portion of the race, which matters a lot more when you think about making positions up at the end. Ross Cato here is chasing after Jacob Fife, and the top 10 now is separated by nearly 12 seconds overall. That's a trend you're going to continue to see as the race progresses here. We're not going to have that issue, of course, of drivers going all out. And even if they do go all out, they might not be the fastest. And for that reason, we're not going to have all too much aggression highlighted just yet. And that's just a consequence of road course racing and its style. Some drivers can try to be aggressive, but if you do that lap after lap, you're bound to make a mistake. And that's where being comfortable with your race pace comes in play. Qualifying and practice, you can risk it all you'd like, but you got to settle into a rhythm and a pace that you understand how to consistently go for no matter what. It's not about going for qualifying laps unless it's a do or die moment in a race, and 90% of the time, more than 90% in fact, it is not do or die. In a situation where you're fighting to stay inside the top 10 on lap 4, you can't afford to push yourself. And so you'll see drivers running that comfortable race pace on this first half and understanding, finding out more often than not where they should be as the race goes on. And then you set your expectations for where you'll finish based on that points. Barlow stays right behind Ross Cato's back bumper. This fight has not changed in the slightest. Nate Campbell here with Don Stevenson and Nolan Potter. Potter getting away from that contact well. He was caught up just a little bit with Blake Gordon. Gordon in the number 13, of course, having that issue with contact from Potter. And right now, Blake is back up to 26, so better than he was as he started this run outside of the top 30. And it looks like right now he's on the way up, gaining further and further, trying to get himself back up inside the top 25. We'll keep with our drivers in the back of the field as well. It looks like now some of the strongest men who are coming on their way up are having some troubles. Jared Davis in the number 19, whether by intention or just by bad circumstances, finding himself starting 28th and having to work his way up. Right now, Jared is going to find himself up 3 on the day, 5 laps in out of 47. Still a lot of time to keep on gaining, and he's 26 seconds behind your race leader. Unfortunately, we don't like saying it in any other circuit, but it means a lot more at a track like the Circuit of the Americas. If you're far behind to start, very unlikely you get back up there to the race lead, unless you're especially strong at a road course. That's something that only one or two drivers, and they're running at the front of the field already, could do. But if you're in the mid-pack or even the upper mid-pack, making up 16 seconds in a road course under green seems next to impossible. Nolan Potter was running side by side right there with Don Stevenson. Stevenson cuts the S's ever so slightly, and that might be a slowdown penalty for the number 47. Don Stevenson, real close to having troubles there. Luckily, he makes it work. That's where it becomes especially important to mind the racing surface. Circuit of the Americas is subject and prone to perhaps the biggest issue iRacing road courses face. No matter how the sanctioning body that you're racing under treats road course control, which we see NASCAR very lenient, drivers can go all over the circuit, iRacing is not at all in that favor. If you step over those curbs in the slightest, you're subject most often to a big penalty, and that's something drivers can't afford to have when they're fighting in the mid-pack. But unfortunately for Stevenson, it looks like he's going to get one big time. The 34 now of Nolan Potter is going to be just ahead of the battle, and Stevenson, who finished P2 last night after qualifying 45th, not the strongest of starts just yet, but certainly a long ways to go to recover. Don Stevenson, yes, he made up 44 places in last night's event at the Pocono Raceway, going from 45th on the grid and finishing second. On very old tire, Ethan Lane got through him at the end of day. And it looks like right now, while he isn't making such big gains, his strategic game is what's going to help him out. All drivers here are going to begin thinking more and more about when to go down a pit road. We don't have a limit on tire, nor do we have a limit on fuel, and so we are expecting to see drivers splitting this race either into thirds or into one half, which means if we go the route of thirds, we have 47 laps to work with. And so with 47 laps, drivers can go for 3 stints and 2 pit stops. Pit road window for drivers going for the 2-stop strategy would open up at about lap 15 and end at about lap 19. For drivers who are going for the 1-stop strategy and attempting to go to distance, they would have to go until about lap number 23 to safely make it the rest of the way. The magic number for the 1-stopper, where you don't have to worry at all, would be 24. The magic number for the 2-stopper would be 17 twice over. That's 1 extra safety lap added on to the respective mathematical differences needed for each type of strategy. So if a driver can go at the minimum 15 or 15 and a half, you split the difference and of course add 1 more. 17 is a very comfortable number for the 2-stoppers. I don't know if we're going to see anyone go for 24 laps in a stint. That might be a little too long. I just don't think it's going to be feasible unless these drivers begin saving here and now. Stevenson now to the inside of the 49 of Woody Mahan here, and here comes Chad Mikus. Mikus in the Ignite Series race at the Circuit of the Americas last year got away with a top 5 finish, and that was one of those first really good races the 25 team put on. Unfortunately, what we've seen as of late is that for Chad Mikus, he's had a lot of bad luck. And we talked about his strategy calls. We talked about the wreck he had last night. Mikus, by all accounts, is a fast driver, and we've seen it. But even though he has top 15 pace at the ovals, his strategy game hasn't been the best, at least to this point. 18th place on the order right now for Mikus, and it appears that for the time being, he's running solidly. He just doesn't want to inflict any harm upon himself. Woody Mahan going to remain just ahead, and this battle is just for the top 15. Right now, Blake Cannon and Ethan Lane have been left in the dust by Scott Eckrich, and no doubt that qualifying run, not a fluke, and it's showing with that big gap. This is, of course, a road course, which means that 6 seconds can easily be reversed in one foul swoop. But at the same time here, this battle for second seems to be one that's far and away from the race leader's concerns. Ethan Lane into turn 1 tries to dive deep, but only for Cannon to once again get the edge into the S's. Now they'll go back and forth for left and right turns, and Lane tries to get even closer here, just can't quite stick it. This battle is going to be tremendous all night long. Two great drivers who know exactly what they have seen out of each other and have those notes. That's something that most drivers don't have. Even Scott Eckridge doesn't know what to expect in the future. And right now, for Ethan Lane and Blake Cannon, well, they know each other better than most of the field. And when they're up front, their battles are pretty similar in most instances. Not to say they're repetitive by any means, but usually these drivers work with the same strategy calls and the same understanding of how to get things done. We'll take a ride on board right now with Ethan Lane and see exactly what that 6 is doing. And so far, Ethan has not been able to make up that position. Running third to Blake Cannon here, and it looks like the advantage is still in Cannon's hands. These two are now going to be more than 8 seconds off of leader Scott Eckridge. In the meanwhile, you'll start to see that Cody Smith is facing some pressure. Smith is running real well in that Next Level Racing Chevrolet. 6th place on the day so far for the number 18. Next Level Racing brand ambassador is a very versatile driver, Cody Smith, and it's no wonder that he's representing Next Level Racing and one of our premier partners, and he's been doing so since 2023. Next Level Racing and Cody Smith, they started the partnership at Daytona that season, the first ever Octane Series race, and Cody Smith won that event. Ever since then, he's been carrying this now iconic paint scheme, but it looks like some troubles now for Cody as he'll fall back in line for P7. That's Eric Thornton making the spot in the 99, by the way. But for Cody Smith, there's no better place for his sim racing needs than nextlevelracing.com. Visit nextlevelracing.com and use promo code Integrity 24 for 5% off at checkout. We have two wonderful partners with us this year in the Integrity Racing League. Let's learn more about both of them. Of course, you're watching the Octane Series live on FTN, and we've not only got the help from the Next Level Racing crew, but also from Sim Motion. And right now, 10 laps in out of 47, Sim Motion has brought themselves on for the 2025 season. It is their very first of the campaign. And of course, for Sim Motion, they also have a 5% discount on their website. Visit Next Level Racing and Sim Motion respectively using promo code INTEGRITY for our Sim Motion guys. They've had a wonderful, of course, help in what we've seen to bring the Integrity Racing League back and with more competition than ever before. So we thank them dearly for their continued efforts. And right now, it's still Scott Eckridge all alone, Blake Cannon, Ethan Lane. They find themselves positions 2 and 3. As tight as these two are, there's still more coming. Watch as Nicholas Ward now gets in the fight. Ward has been running real well so far tonight, maybe a little bit better than we expected. 5th to 4th on the day, and he's making his moves. Nicholas Ward will be accompanied briefly by Nick Tarbuck. It looks like both of our Nicholas drivers are coming back up. Whether or not you spell it fully, they both got the same speed. Tarbuck right now is just behind. Give or take 1 second is the difference. And it looks like Ethan Lane finding himself getting closer and closer each time by, but only the negative direction. For Cannon and for Ward alike, it looks like now they're pulling each other in. The battle for second will become 4 drivers at that point. Eric Thornton right now in the number 99, he finds himself still ahead of Cody Smith. That is P6. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the second big pack. You've got Kevin Bernheimer right now who's smack in the middle of it. They're coming up on lapper Richard Smith. Smith started 32nd on the day. One lap down now, is up one position in 31st. And it looks like a quick pass going to be made on the 23 team. Jacob Fife having a little bit more trouble, and Jacob gets broken off while Kevin Bernheimer gets through. Blake Cannon right now still holds P2. Nicholas Ward finds himself in 4th. And top 5 finished off by Tarbuck here, the leading man for Domination Intimidation Racing. DIR sending a few drivers tonight, but also a few less than what we've seen as of recent. Michael Stroll not in this event tonight. However, you see Tarbuck is with us, as is, of course, a little bit further back in the field, you're going to see Chad Mikus. So DIR still racing, but it looks like a smaller force compared to usual, and especially smaller than what we saw last night, where Michael Stroll, Rob Ackley, and Braxton Deweese all came together and raced. Looks like right now the number 4 holds forward, while his teammates are either off the circuit or, for Chad Mikus' case, still battling to get in front. John Navarro battles here with Nate Campbell. And it looks like right now Nate is in good spirits, keeping himself up there in 11th place, just outside the top 10, and that means that any mistake made up in front will benefit these drivers big time. They don't have to worry all too much about what it means to be further back right now. That's mainly because they've got time, and a lot of it. Pit stop strategy as well is going to give a big opportunity to jump a driver or two. Jacob Fife, even though he's a few seconds ahead and couldn't be caught up to even on a hard lunge, is only 2 seconds up. 2 seconds might not be possible to make up quick on a racetrack, but one mistake or one savvy pit call is the difference between more than 2 seconds. So it's not worth worrying all too much about whether or not it's the right position right now to make gains, but instead look to that long run, stay within good intervals, and benefit from there. The 36 of Jacob Fife, of course, still has a chance to benefit himself. He's in 9th here to Kevin Bernheimer's P8. Cody Smith is still 7th. Cody has gone up 6 spots on the day to go from 13th to 7th, so he's made some good gains. And the end goal is to continue making those moves. Eric Thornton goes 8th to 6th in that number 99. He's gotten himself up just 2 spots, and looks like right now, if a driver qualified inside of the top 5, they are all still in the top 5 with one exception, of course. And that is your second place qualifier, Ryan Bean. Bean having that early trouble sending himself into the middle of the pack, and now he finds himself still working his way up. Ryan right now is catching up to Ross Cato. This is the fight for the 13th position. Watch as the 26 gets to work. Bean undeniably has speed, and it looks like even after that misfire to start the night, he's got a real good chance of making it up for a top 10 or a top 5. Shades perhaps of what we saw out of Chase Elliott to start the Sunday night race, the Cup Series, Circuit of the Americas, where he ended up having a lap 1 incident and come away with a top 5. Seemed impossible to start, and yet he was able to do so at the very end of the race. Right now, Ryan Bean is going to work the outside of turn 2, and it looks like he'll work it to his advantage. Bean will take the position into the S's. Ross Cato, no choice but to concede. Bean enters the baker's dozen just like that. Dax Scrintonall, the number 20, is up 6 spots from 16th to 10th. Up 8 is Nate Campbell, 20th to 12th. And talk about some big moves for the Nate Campbell car. It looks like right now he's on the tail end of the top of the field, and he had to come from smack in the middle. Not easy in the slightest, especially considering there are no brakes in the action. If a driver's made their way up to the front, they've done so based on that long green flag strategy, which is never easy to finesse. It just comes down to whether or not you got it in you or if you don't. And right now, Nate Campbell definitely has it, and he's making big moves. Ross Cato is still 13th. Don Stevenson ends up as the 15th man right now, and he's gotten away from Nolan Potter. Looks like Potter's gains have come to a head and sort of at a standstill for now, fading back to the 47 here. for lap 15 next time by. We got ourselves close to the opening of the two-stop window if drivers are going to go for that multi-stop strategy. It looks like right now most drivers have chosen not to make it into pit road, and there's Scott Eckrich making his way by a lapper. That's the driver, of course, of Sean Kalist and Aaron Eads. Aaron started 30th, is now 4 spots down and 1 lap down in 34th, so not the best of starts. And Sean Kalist caught up in the early troubles. We saw his incident after the turn 1 fiasco. Now going to find himself the last man in the top 30, and he's now officially 1 lap down as well. Problems for the number 90 and the number, of course, 88 respectively. Both of which now going to be far behind, but doesn't mean their night is over. Of all the drivers who chose not to take a qualifying lap, Brad Patton is the highest in terms of position, and of course he's made the most gains. Brad, who didn't qualify for any races during the 2024 regular season, now finds himself running up 10 on the day from his automatically assigned position of 29th. So to come out of barely the top 30 into the top 20 is a major success so far. But Brad Patton, rest assured, he's not going to take any breaks. He's not going to rest at all, actually. He's looking for a top 15 at the minimum, and it's very likely he does more with it than just that. So watch out as Patton continues to climb. The next best driver who didn't take a qualifying run is Jared Davis. Davis is only up 2, and he's really locked up in his position now. Davis in the number 19, finding himself 26th as it stands. So the difference is clear between Patton and the rest of his contemporaries who didn't take a qualifying time. Because of those who didn't take a qualifying time, only 4 are on the lead lap, and only 1 is inside of the top 25. Patton is simply a cut above, starting from the back. Scott Eckrich is now a total of 12.5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. He is no joke, and tonight he's put some of the best to shame, including Ethan Lane and Blake Cannon. And to start so strong, we gotta wonder, how is he gonna finish the job here? What's his strategy call gonna be? It looks like right now, whatever he does, he'll have a good buffer to help him out with it, but pit road is inevitable. You gotta come in eventually. When will Scott make the call? He could go in as early as next time by if he'd like, and still have a chance to run up front. And while Eckrich goes into turn 1 and exits the front straightaway, Blake Cannon and Ethan Lane are just making their way down. It is a fundamental difference in pace tonight. While second and third are toe-to-toe and have been for the better part of the day, it looks like the exact opposite between first and second, whoever P2 may go to. Ethan Lane now going to work on the high side, entering the S's. Will it work out? It looks like advantage is still Cannon. Lane has been forced to take the outer groove multiple times here, and it hasn't been easy. But it looks like this time through, a quick maneuver gets the left-handed section back in the 6's favor. Ethan Lane to second place. Cannon now works behind. And talk about a nice move there. The 44 of Cannon's going to lie back, and it looks like he'll let Ethan Lane take control once again. Quick move from the number 6, but still not going to be up to the very front of the field. The battle for second has remained exciting. Blake Cannon lies back for a brief moment, but I'm very much certain that he's going to come back quick. 16 laps in out of 47. If a driver chooses to come in this time by, of course, that would start the two-stop strategy. Currently, it looks like, according to our timing and scoring system, that no driver is chosen to go in, except for Taylor Story, who went to pit road and parked it early in this race. The only retiree so far that we can see 13 laps down. Kevin Bernheimer looks to be the first exception. Bernheimer right now, last time through, was scored in 21st. It looks like he's still there, and you'll see that number 28 went through lap 15. So a two-stop strategy coming in the form of Bernheimer here, and we'll see whether or not it works out. The 28 will take the risk and finds himself running in the mid-pack as a result of the decision. And notably, Blake Gordon is back up to P20 here, so he's continued that recovery in the number 13, and it looks like while that lap 1 spin sent him back, it did not eliminate him from top running competition, which is great to see. Gordon still has a lot of good pace in him here, and I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps on making gains, but for now, it looks like Bernheimer's going to have the advantage in making big moves. To the stripe. Gordon for 20th, Bernheimer for 21st, and still no other driver has chosen to make it in. Pit road to remain rather empty, and it looks like the one-stop strategy might be on the table for these front-running guys, including of note, 70 of Scott Eckridge. And we're watching and waiting to see whether or not he makes that call to stay out on track officially. So far, it looks like he's kept himself rather comfortable up and in front of the field, but he hasn't yet made any official confirmation of when he'd like to go down to pit road. No driver has given the signal in yet. Don Stevenson just made the move, however, and it looks like now Don's going to be scored 25th on brand new rubber, so he's one of the first to go down and adopt that two-stop strategy for lap number 18. Scott Eckridge leads, and he's out there by a country mile. Further on back, you're going to see Ethan Lane and Blake Cannon continue to fight. At the line last time through, Cannon got back in ahead. But again, Ethan Lane decides to take it deep into turn 1, and he's going to give a real good run to the 44. And it looks like Ethan Lane has taken the spot. These two drivers are going back and forth time and time again, and it looks like it's just going to continue here. Nicholas Ward is now more than 3 seconds off of this battle. He was as close as a second and a half back, and while of course he's not running far from these two drivers, Cannon and Lane, it looks like he's closer on pace with Nick Tarbuck, who's behind him, than he is with the guys ahead in Cannon and Ethan Lane there. Lapper Chad Dillon is going to come in the way of these guys. Both Cannon and Lane just got by him. It looks like now he's the next target for the second grouping, although two drivers, Tarbuck and Ward here. Eric Thornton is going to get away from Jacob Fife, but Fife has not gotten officially through on Cody Smith. Cody's going to duck to the inside once again, try not to make contact. A very shallow entry against the 36, and it looks like Cody Smith can't make it work. Hardly makes it stick, and now here comes Ryan Bean. Bean is going to get himself back up into 8th place with that one, and 7th is next on the table. While Ryan Bean lost an awful lot of time, it looks like his track position can be recovered. Looking to finish at least in the single digits tonight. Your second place qualifier is not done yet, and it looks like now Jacob Fife has to keep his rearview mirror as full focus. Across the stripe again for lap number 19, it's going to be Jacob Fife and Ryan Bean separated by less than 1/10 of a second. Advantage Fife, but on pace, Ryan Bean is clearing away the winner of this battle. Jacob Fife still holds that position. Currently, it's going to be Ethan Lane ahead of Blake Cannon, and at this point, it looks like Cannon's actually lost a good second relative to Lane, something we haven't seen so far in this run, and yet it looks like now a little bit of a difference for the number 44. Not fading away per se, but it looks like he's no longer gaining and continuing the attack, and that's going to let Lane continue to get closer and closer to his own race lead. Of course, racing for second, that is, as Scott Eckridge really runs the field all alone up there. As he comes now for lap number 20, he'll put another lap driver through. That's the 92, and of course, that's going to be Bobby Keith. 27th place right now for Bobby, and he'll be the next driver, put one under, which leaves only 26 drivers on the lead lap. Jared Davis will be the last of them now, the number 19. Not the best of days for Jared Davis, while Brad Patton has continued to gain further. And yeah, Brad's gotten himself up now to position number 17. It looks like, relative to his competition, Brad has been the outlier and the overdoer. No other drivers have been able to make consistent moves in such a fashion from the back of the field. But now, Jared Davis is showing that even though he's had pace at the ovals before, he really doesn't have the best of it, shall we say, when we're looking at his caliber at the road courses. Maybe it just comes because of track position, but right now it's a really tricky spot to be in. He's not going on the way up. He doesn't find himself going anywhere but close to 1 lap down. Has to be careful from here. Scott Eckridge, 20 laps in out of 47, has made it all but official now. The focus is on the one-stop strategy, and it would be ideal to stay out now for about 4 more laps, then make his way down and in. Eckridge, Lane, Cannon, Ward. 1, 2, 3, 4 combination, and then you got Nick Tarbuck in that number 4 who completes the top 5. Eric Thornton's going to find himself on the way. That's the number 99 machine, 8th to 6th, even still gaining 2 to this point. And it looks like right now Thornton away from all his competition, but with Ryan Bean still gaining, we might just see a second matchup. This time Bean on his way up rather than fading down the order, as Ryan is looking for a real opportunity at a top 5 finish. He's made his way now back up to 7th, only 2 spots to go over the course of some 25 laps. Not going to be easy given that he's 13 seconds off of Nicholas Ward, but given the gains, anything is possible now for the 26. Just has to hit his marks consistently, lap in and lap out. And it looks like undeniable now that he's got the stuff to do it, but the 26 has to keep consistent. It's been a good first half with the exception of that opening lap. Now he's looking for an even better second half to prove he's still in the fights. Brad Patton getting closer now to the next battle he'll face off against. That's Woody Mahan and Chad Mikus. This is for 15th place. Mahan going to slide into turn 1, but he'll overshoot it ever so slightly. Burns up the tire. Chad Mikus gets a better run downhill, although Mahan does get the advantage and the position, at least temporarily. Chad Mikus smooth until the end of the S's and now losing significant time. It looks like Mahan with the edge, and the 49 will get through. Both drivers making some mistakes in that sequence, but the worst mistakes being made by the 49, of course, until Chad Mikus outdid him. And so now it looks like Chad's going to be on his way back up. From the outside looking in on this fight, 16th place for Mikus, up 2 on the day, so he's been rather stagnant overall, as have a few other drivers. But for Stagner's case, it looks like in particular his moves have not been upward overall. Up 2, and maybe still some room for improvement, so hopefully we'll see Chad keeping exactly as he is, looking for a position. Nate Campbell's coming up there again on John DeBarro, and he's already made it by. John might have a rebuttal, but for 10th place, it looks like Campbell's gotten himself comfortably back in. Lap number 22, Nate Campbell comes across the stripe here, and he's got himself closer and closer to Cody Smith. The number 45 has a chance now at the single digits. Last time by, 139.43 compared to a 139.14. So Cody Smith was still closer, but when it comes to position, it's going to become a tighter race here. And if, of course, Nate Campbell has some clean air, we might see an even faster driver than what we've seen to kick off the night. He's got a few seconds now that he can use to just put himself back together, regroup, and try to fight once again. But for Cody Smith and Josh Gallagher and company, the lappers might make a difference, so watch out from here and we'll see what happens. 22 laps in out of 47. Pit stop cycle awaits the entire field, and it looks like now within 5 laps to go until each and every driver makes their way in. Cody Smith in the number 18 still occupies the 10th position. He'll end the top 10 as it stands, and he's going to be there with Nate Campbell. Jacob Fife and Ryan Bean are no longer a battle. Bean's been able to get away by some 2 seconds, and so his next task will be trying to catch up to Eric Thornton. Eric right now, and that number 99 is within about 2 seconds of Ryan Bean. it's gotten a little bit closer time in and time out, and you'll take a look now as they cross the start-finish line once again. It'll be a 1:39 second lap, a 1:39.742 for Ryan Bean. It was a 1:37.985, so he's gaining more than a second per lap on Thornton ahead of him. It's clear now that Ryan Bean is advantageous when it comes to his speed, and that's going to prove critical for the next coming laps. A 1:37.985 was slower than Scott Eckridge, but relative to Ethan Lane and Blake Cannon, it was quicker than both of them. So right now, Bean is running the second fastest lap times on the track, and he's fighting for 6th place. I would say he has a big advantage now in whatever battles come his way, and it looks like a top 5 is very possible, even if it's not easy. Relative to podium sitters, of course, we mentioned he's more than a second faster. Relative to Nicholas Ward, Eric Thornton, and Nick Tarbuck alike, he's all quicker by more than a second each time by. With 40 seconds to make up, of course, to your race leader in Scott Eckridge. Doesn't look like he'll have the time for them, but if he keeps at this wonderful pace, he might have the opportunity to catch up to as high as 4th place in Nick Tarbuck. Let's see if Eric Thornton makes it any easier, however, now, as that number 99 is facing the pressure, and he's got it head on. Apex Racing, seeing their premier driver in the Integrity OCTANE Series fight to stay for 6th place. Right now, though, Ryan Bean's got a good run, and down the front straightaway, he'll build up that momentum once again. We've hit the money lap, by the way. The one-stop strategy is officially the way to go for the field tonight, and now that we've gone 24 laps in this opening stint, we're going to figure out what the rest of the field does to finish the job. As it stands, we've got a total now of less than 30 laps to go. And officially, according to iRacing and Timing and Scoring, 24 laps to do it. Eric Thornton is still just ahead now of Ryan Bean. Ryan is putting down the pressure, but he hasn't made it by. That was a 1:39.668, his slowest lap in the last 10 laps, and one of his slowest overall. And this is where you start to see that defense become ever important. Even though a driver can be quick, it doesn't mean that they're going to get away straight up. And it looks like right now that is exactly what we're seeing. 23 laps to go, as shown by your leader in Scott Eckridge. He'll take the field once again to the next lap. Sam Nieto now 1 lap down in 23rd. Eckridge is having a dominant race so far, and it's been a banner event for the number 70 team, who are looking for an early victory. Eckridge right now leads the field, and he's got full control as we come to 22 laps remaining next time by. And as always, courtesy of our friends at Whiplash Sim Cams, we're going to crank it up. Pit Stop TV welcoming us into the Whiplash SimCams family, and what a wonderful decision it is for the FTN Broadcasting crew, bringing you iRacing's most relevant pit stop, of course, TV package, as seen on P1 Broadcasting as well, the Elite Racing League Network. This is a group of dedicated camera teams, of course, and broadcasters that are looking to make the optimal solution for iRacing replay cameras. And the best broadcasters are now taking notice, and we're one of the next and one of the newest to switch over to this brand new platform at Whiplash SimCams. We'd like to thank them for offering us to join in all of our car and track cameras. As always, brought to you by our official camera providers, Whiplash SimCams, for 2025 and beyond. Now with 22 laps to go, we're going to crank things up here from the Circuit of the Americas. Scott Eckridge controls the race in dominating fashion, and we're expecting pit road to become busy sometime soon. So grab your popcorn, as the second half of this race is due to get started, and we're about to crank it up now from Austin, Texas. You're watching the COTA Grand Prix as we go live and unfiltered from the Lone Star State. Now 20 laps remain for Scott Eckridge. Your race leader is still out and away, and so far it looks like while he's got a few internet troubles that we've noticed, otherwise he has been sharp as a tack to open up the night. Currently leading by 20 seconds over Ethan Lane and company. Now some drivers are heading down a pit road, and that's something to note. It looks like that time by Ryan Bean decided to make his way in, according to timing and scoring, but on second look, it looks like he's still out there. So it looks like maybe some connection troubles for a few of these guys here, but one driver pulling down low, that's Aaron Eads once again. Still, the majority of the field is holding out as long as they can to head down a pit road. And you'll see the last pit lap will show you who's gone in and when. We saw Jacob Fife make his way through, but we did see that Ethan Lane, notably, also just made his way in. And it looks like now Ethan is going to sacrifice his track position and take that new rubber. Getting himself back out there in 6th place is not a bad place to be. Top 5 is still nearly guaranteed, and he's got good rubber to go help him out. So we'll see if Ethan can chase down the guys ahead of him here, as it looks like he still has just about 20 laps to go to get the job done, and he's on assignment full on tonight to finish it strong. Catching up and making contact there with lapper Aaron Eads, though. That's not going to help as Aaron gets sent all the way into the grass. And Ethan Lane is not going to mince words or make it any longer than it needs to be there with the lapper in the number 88, and he just gets through as soon as possible. Now he's going to try to chase down Ryan Bean. Gap between these two drivers right now, well, you see there, according to timing and scoring, the difference is about 7 seconds. But with Ethan Lane having newer rubber, the expectation is that he'll have about 2 seconds a lap quicker for his first laps here, and that's going to be all he'll need to catch up before the 15 lap to go marker, which will give comfortable room to keep that battle going without concern for what else is to happen. Scott Eckridge right now is 22 seconds up on Blake Cannon and still gaining. That time by, Scott ran a 137.132. As a reminder, his qualifying lap was a 136.315, and his last lap in race condition would have qualified him 3rd overall, which he qualified on the pole anyway. He still would have been top 3 based on the lap he just ran 29 laps in to his racing stint under green with no brakes. Eckridge has been near perfect today, and it looks like he could go flag to flag for our most dominant race win, certainly of the early season and potentially of the entire year. "19 laps to go. Eckridge has been unstoppable so far, but the rest of the field is still fighting itself. Nate Campbell just went in that time by. Looks like the number 45 there, deciding to drop through. We'll see what Nate does from here, as it looks like he's slipping and sliding back and forth. And you'll see right now, going to find himself a little bit further back. Then you've got Cody Smith, Zach Scrinthal as well, and Woody Mahan, who rounds out the top 10. Let's talk about the drivers who have officially gone into pit road so far and what it means for the rest of the field, as we see some of which have stayed out. Sean Kalis went in. He's in 32nd as it stands, but you see Thornton, Bernheimer, Fife, Stevenson, Cato, Mikus, and DeBarro all in this bundle, who are now mostly 1 lap down. They've all decided to go in. You see Blake Gordon here, who's going to be in the 19th position, one of those that did indeed decide to go into pit road. 17th and 19th on the day for Blake Gordon, and so it looks like, even though he had such a troublesome start, now he's finally making his way back up. Went down to pit road at lap number 24, got new rubber once again, and there's a chance that he can come away net even on the day if, of course, he gets through on John DeBarro. Sam Nieto was last time at the line, scored in 18th. Blake has gotten by on Sam Nieto, and so the difference maker would be whether or not he can get up there to John DeBarro, but DeBarro is going to continue defending. John goes wide. Blake Gordon is going to go as high as he can as well, and it looks like now it'll be a close to side-by-side battle for the Endeavor Racing number 13. Gordon's close, still can't quite get there, and he's going to have to wait once again. Woody Mahan right now, that number 49, concludes the top 10 here, and it looks like he's in a comfortable spot to hang on for at least a top 10 finish. Woody right now in the 49, while he doesn't have anyone else to work with tonight, has done a great job in that Alliance Ford Mustang. And this is something we like to see, these rookies now holding their own and figuring out where they lie at the front of the field. Tonight, in the top 10, we've got Zach Scrintinol, Woody Mahan, Nate Campbell, Ryan Bean, and Scott Eckridge as rookies. So half of the top 10 right now made up of the rookie forces. And of course, you got that race leader going out there looking for the win as a rookie. That is Scott Eckridge, and he's still exactly where he needs to be. P1 for the number 70, and time to spare. 17 laps to go. This time by Cannon is second, Tarbuck third. Ryan Bean is getting closer and closer now to his next battle. Ryan's going to find himself fifth once again, but Nicholas Ward is now 5 seconds up. Nicholas once had more than 10 seconds of an advantage here, but now that his defense has been cut in half, the only thing he can bank on is time. And time is of the essence here, and it's inevitable we run toward the checkered flag. So the more time he uses in defense, well, only the quicker Ryan Bean will become, and it looks like right now Ryan is just getting closer and closer to those ahead of him. And Nicholas Ward appears to be that next target, and there's nothing more he can do now but watch and wait. And if he's got a plan, hopefully we see it put in action here, but it doesn't look like anything's a guarantee, as the 97 has been losing time to Ryan Bean for the last 15 laps. Just a matter of how long Ryan Bean can continue to make these gains. He's done a wonderful job of continuing to make moves lap in, lap out, and getting closer and closer to Nicholas Ward, but such consistency is very hard to keep up with, even when you got a strong foundation and that confidence in yourself. And right now, Ryan Bean finds himself all alone. 16 laps to go this time by. We're going to be coming to 15 laps remaining next time through. Scott Eckridge still holds his own as race leader, the number 70 ahead of Blake Cannon, and the gap is now nearly 25 seconds, and it's only gotten further and further each time by. Looking a little bit further back there, you're going to see Brad Patton. Patton right now, while one lap down, has made his moves up to 21st. It looks like with some new rubber on him, he has a chance to continue making more moves further up. But as it stands, he's a little bit further back than the last time we checked on him. Patton got up inside of the top 20, but now finds himself just out of it. I think that's where the pit stop cycle makes its big difference. Patton was one of those guys who decided to bite and go in, and there are a few drivers who he was ahead of at the time of that decision who have decided not to make that move. Matt Sizzler right now battling, and just behind him you'll see that's Brock Potter. Potter in the 14 has been keeping him honest and is now looking to take that 22nd position. Brock coming down the front straightaway, and he might go for an early dive. Let's see what Potter does here into turn one. Looks like right now, Matt still has himself on the edge. With a 21 position, of course, 21st is still Brock Potter. The fight for the top 20 rages on. It looks like right now, Brad Patton is going to fall to 23rd. He's got some scuffing on him from that last lap. Brian Yazik's made it through in the 55, and now Nicholas Ward is making his way. Ryan Bean is now 4 seconds back. Gaps are slowly but surely closing, but an emphasis now on slowly. 137.447 that time by, compared to 138.85. Still, Ryan Potter Of course, not in this race. When we talk about Ryan Bean, he is quick. And speaking of a Potter, Brock Potter still fighting on, hasn't gotten up there to Matt Sizzler. Interesting to note that the Swamp Motorsport drivers are not in this event tonight. 83 Sebastian Miller had a very real chance of winning last night, although it looks like none of the Octane Series is going to see any of the Swamp Motorsports guys tonight. They'll come back on Thursday night live on FTN with the Highline Racing League, and hopefully we'll see you there as well. If you've enjoyed coverage so far tonight live on FTN, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Your support is always greatly appreciated, and that's what helps keeps us going here on the channel, bringing you coverage week in and week out. Being at the line, 13 seconds back. Right now, Nicholas Ward is on leader Eckrich, and that's because Scott is slowly but surely fading back. 137.368 according to timing and scoring that time by. And Blake Cannon, as you can see, is right there. The gap is less than 2 seconds. Scott decided to make his way into pit road, it appears, on that note. And Scott now with little track position advantage. We'll see what he can do with it here. Blake Cannon has gotten closer, but still it's not yet enough for a real fight for the spot. Then you'll have Ryan Bean running in third, and it looks like now that 26 goes by another lapper. That's Richard Smith. Smith tonight has gotten himself just inside the top 30 fight. 30th place from 32nd is a gain of +2. Still hasn't made it up anywhere further. 3 laps down. 14 drivers are on the lead lap. Don Stevenson is the last of which. Scott Eckrich, of course, now looking to make it even less than that. Ross Cato and Don Stevenson have to watch out here. 15th, 14th are in jeopardy. Even 13th, 12th, and 11th might be moved toward. Scott Eckrich is going to continue going, but he's got a little less room behind him as Blake Cannon now decides to go down to pit road. That wiggle room is extended. And so now, a little bit of contact coming into the front straightaway there. You saw it in the back of your frame, and it looks like trouble. That is Chad Dillon running 31st at the time of incidents. Ryan Bean in the pit road as well. For Ethan Lane, he's decided to stay out, and this is where the advantage comes into play for his fight for second. Blake Cannon is now rolling through, but it's going to be a very slow entry to turn 1, whereas Ethan Lane now is coming at full pace, and Ethan will take second. Blake Cannon put behind, as is Ryan Bean, and so the cycle continues, and Ethan Lane plays it well to get back into P2 here. 26 seconds off of your leader in Scott Eckrich. Lane's going to come up again on Richard Smith, the lapper we saw just a few laps ago prior to Cannon's entry to pit road. Looks like for Ethan, he's going to be sitting comfortably in second place here, something that we've seen all night long, and it looks like now that advantage is full on. The most exciting thing to see from this point onward is, of course, whether or not Ethan Lane can keep it in second or if Blake Cannon is going to have enough with those new tires to get back. Blake is not all too far behind. The gap right now is 2 seconds, and if those new tires mean anything, then it's going to be a significant help for the 44 to get back up there and give it one last fight. 13 laps to go. While we are, of course, now down to the final stage of the race, it is not at all a done deal. Cannon for Richard Smith, another easy pass. Now it looks like the 44 only has one driver ahead of him, and it's going to be for position. Further on back, Nicholas Ward is going to fight again with Ryan Bean. This time they'll battle on track. The 97 is going to have to defend, but we'll see whether or not he can for any long period of time. Already Bean careening down the front straightaway, and he'll take the spot on his own accord. 26 for 5th. And once again, Bean has proven he's got the speed and the stuff to keep it moving. 12 laps to go. Nick Tarbuck, the next target. That time by Nicholas Ward, of course, ran a 139.409, but Tarbuck ran a 138.297. And he might be just quick enough to hang on without worry of being passed. Going to be exciting to see whether or not that proves the case in the long term, or, of course, if there's any different issues for the Tarbuck team. It looks like right now for Nick, though, he's in a comfortable spot, and he'll stay just behind the podium. "11 laps remaining. Blake Cannon in the 44, still third. Ethan Lane going to remain in second, and we'll see whether or not Blake can make it back up. New rubber is, of course, a great thing to have, but when you're battling against Ethan Lane, who's on a warmed-up tire, the next gen often takes kindly not to the driver who's on the newest tire, but who's on the tire that's the freshest when it gets to that peak of the life cycle. And oftentimes you need to run about 5 or 6 laps to really make that happen. Now, it looks like right now for the number 6 of Ethan Lane, he has done just that, putting himself in a perfect spot to get that tire freshness as all his other competitors come out. And right now, Blake Cannon is going to be losing time rather than making anything up. Scott Eckridge coming up now on Blake Gordon. Gordon's going to find himself 18th, the last man on the lead lap. A few more drivers rolling back into the top 20 as lead lap drivers, thanks to the cycle officially coming to a close here. The pit window, the magic number, was surpassed and then some. We saw drivers coming in deep into the 30s, and the one-stop strategy proved to be secure tonight, no matter how a driver sliced it. Wonderful to see. Good strategy calls being made all around. And of course, for Blake Gordon, it proves to play in his advantage as he's still looking to go for a par tonight, 17th for 17th. Now, Eckridge gets through. Scott Eckridge and Ethan Lane are separated by nearly a half minute on track, but there are still some drivers who are going toe-to-toe. Zach Scrintonall and Cody Smith are two of the closest drivers on the circuit right now. It looks like for the time being that even though they're not going to be directly battling, that Scrintonall could still give Cody Smith a run for his money. Cody runs in 12th, Scrintonall 13th, and the battle is to get inside the dozen, not working with the Baker's dozen right now. 13th is comfortably held by Zach, but I think he would like to move his way one spot up. Fast Forward Esports sees Ross Cato in 15th here, and Ross is looking to build that consistency one race at a time. In the Integrity Ignite Series, we see that top 30 qualifying lock-in. That's not the case in the Octane Series. Any driver can qualify their way in, but having that advantage of early points will prove pivotal. Ross finished second in the 2023 championship standings, was a top 10 driver last year, but so far, if we take a look at the title standings, he finds himself maybe a little bit further back than he would like to be. Ross Cato, as it stands, of course, he's trying to get himself back up into the title fight. He is 27th currently. And of course, for a driver who we're expecting to see all season long, he'll slowly but surely elevate himself, but 27th place is not the best start. And that comes, of course, on the count of 2 starts and nothing that's come of it so far. Poles, top 10s, and top 5s he's been entirely absent from, but for Ross to get a good top 15 day, although it's not a marquee race or a particularly impressive finish, is a solid way to get the ball rolling once again. Sometimes you don't need a bombastic race to really put yourself back up there. Instead, you just need a solid run. You need to get yourself back in position, realign your mindset, and go from there. And a top 15 like this at a challenging track like the Circuit of the Americas with nearly 40 drivers on circuit is certainly a challenge for any driver. So it's impressive to see Cato pulling it together here. 9th to 15th on the day. Does look like he's worked a little bit further in the negatives, but even still, it would be his best finish of the season. Number 12 stays in the top 15. Shad Mikus runs 16th, still up 2 on the day. It looks like he's settled in rather consistently to this position, and he'll be the next driver put 1 lap down. So we'll only see 15 on the lead lap at the end of this race at the very most. If Scott Eckrich remains on top. That's how good Scott has been so far, and it looks like still making gains. Eckrich on Mikus coming soon with 8 laps to go this time by, and the number 70 has not let up the gas pedal all night long. Take a brief ride on board with Eckrich as you'll see him go after another lap machine. Coming up now on Mikus, and it's going to be another pass on a lap machine. Eckrich has not had to deal with anyone in the field all night long, and we mentioned it in qualifying. Those first 2 laps in quali would mean the difference for the next 49. And for Eckrich, they absolutely have. And for the majority of the top 10, that's been the case. A little bit of a wreck there. One driver going around, that's Richard Smith. No one else involved, and the 23 remains parked. And he gets back on the way here. Looks like Smith just getting himself slid around the way. And luckily nobody else involved, but for the man in 30th, another problem. Now Richard runs 4 laps down, and it looks like he's got competition in the form of Chad Dillon on that lap. Number 70 puts the power down. 7 laps remaining. Ethan Lane has been caught up to, though, ever so slightly. Blake Cannon is making gains. Nothing major just yet, but they're within 2 seconds, and it looks like one mistake could be the difference. Ethan Lane right now has been running comfortably, but Blake Cannon is still just there. Doesn't look like it's the closest to battles. Not going to be side-by-side lap after lap, but there's still a perfect opportunity for the Cannon machine if, of course, Lane makes a big error. Closest battle on the lead lap is now Kevin Bernheimer and Jacob Fife. This is the battle for 9th here. Bernheimer has the edge. Nate Campbell's just ahead in 8th, but he's not fighting for a position actively. It looks like now Fife is just trying to get himself back up to 9th place. He's up 2 on where he qualified, whereas Bernheimer is down 2, so working the positives versus working the negatives, as we say, comparing the grid to the final results. Side by side, Bernheimer now going to see Jacob Fife making his move. A little bit of a shallow exit there for the 36 team, but just enough room, and the 36 makes do. That's the Sim Motion Chevrolet. Jacob Fife for 9th. Fife continues his solid running to open up the season. Podium performance, of course, the Octane Series. He actually has himself a victory already. It was a bit of a shock to everyone, but he made a 2-tire call workout in Atlanta and already a checkered flag in his back pocket. And with that said, he's the first driver to win in, of course, 2023 and 2025 alike. Ethan Lane, of course, he got it done last night in the Ignite Series, but he's never won in that series before. So, Fife bringing it back from the inaugural season to the current day, and he finds himself right now in a real good position to keep fighting with Bernheimer. Six laps remaining. Otherwise, besides this fight, everything else is really settled in, and that's the nature of Integrity Racing League road racing, as we often see it. Although we might see aggressive racing to start the night, right now it looks like everyone's gotten themselves accustomed to where they'll be, and finding that groove and rhythm has really taken place. Now, as we look up to second place, though, it looks like we might have a little bit of an exception. This is Blake Cannon making his way on Ethan Lane. Take a ride on board. Blake with one last drive. It'll be 5 laps to go when we come across the stripe next time by. And if Blake's got anything left, he's got to show it now. It'll be a do-or-die run to the checkered flag. Blake Cannon following right behind Ethan Lane here, and it looks like this is when that freshness period actually favors the 44. Blake Cannon now getting some tire warmth in it, getting that heat together, and now he has the speed to make a move. Cannon with a real good run at a turn 16 and entering the front straightaway. It's the closest he's been since the halfway marker. 5 laps to go as we come across the line, and Cannon makes the dive big. Little bit too big. Ethan Lane comes back and takes the spot clearly. Opportunistic, and it won't play out well. Ethan Lane gets the position back. That's second, and that might be all she wrote for Cannon, lest he can make his way back and do it again. Talk about a great move for Blake Cannon there. He's now going to be following Ethan Lane, of course, but it was an even greater move for that number 6. He dove in deep, luckily did it clean, but the number 6, he put his effort in to fight right back, and that's that switchback maneuver we saw early in the race, and that's the classic battle between these two drivers who are practically lockstep at the road races. So now, Cannon finds himself on the back foot. But if we look on board from Ethan Lane's perspective, say for instance we look from the back end, well, it's a completely different story. He's going to be all on defense. Blake Cannon put together a great run for the last 3 laps to make that lunge, but now he's going to have to do it again, and that will be capturing lightning in a bottle twice. But as you can see, he's made gains, and it looks like there's a real chance we can see it once again. Going for a 2-time maneuver, Blake Cannon hopping over curbs and driving the S is near perfect compared to Ethan Lane there, and it looks like the fight is on once more. It's one thing to continue making it up to the driver ahead of you, but when you get up to the point where you can pass, it's all about execution. And executing is hard, especially now as they come up on a myriad of lap drivers. Cannon has to go wide for the 96 of Josh Gallagher, and he'll have to go for it again, setting himself up. It'll be 3 laps to go next time through, just about 7 3/4 miles. Scott Eckert just got to that point, by the way. 3 remaining, and he's a half minute ahead of everyone else. But for Blake Cannon, he's now only a second behind Ethan Lane. The fight rages on. 3 laps to go now for your second-place drivers. Ryan Bean is 9 seconds away from Nick Tarbuck, impending a disaster for the number 4 or a miracle for the 26. It looks like Nick has 4th place squared away. Ethan Lane, however, definitely doesn't have his position locked up. He'll shake into turn 1, and he nearly gives away the spot going into the S's. Now, as they go through the left and right-handers, Cannon's close, tries to go wide, looks to force an issue, and it looks like Lane gets bounced off the sausage curbs, but still holds the spot. A little bit of pressure behind now from some of those lap machines. Notably just behind that, of course, is going to be just on the tail end of Blake Cannon, the driver of the number 14 in Brock Potter. Potter right now is going to get away from it all, but Blake Cannon is right there. 2 laps to go next time by. Cannon stays with Ethan Lane, and they're still right there within a half second. Ethan Lane's defense has been nearly impeccable, but now it looks like it's going to come to a head. 2 laps to go. The number 70 right now, Scott Eckridge, remains up in front, and he's all away with no competition. .76 seconds back at the line there for Ethan Lane. And a little bit further behind is going to be still Blake Cannon, but some tire smoke from the 6. Cannon wasn't close enough to capitalize yet. And now it's going to be all about perfection from here. Cannon even making it back up to this point where he's close. That was impressive in its own right. That lunge with about 7 laps to go almost was game over. But instead of game over, the party just begun. Cannon slides! Cannon spins! So long to the fight for third. Nick Tarbuck now in the battle for the podium, and he'll take P3. Blake Cannon falls out of the podium just a little bit too much, too late. Blake Cannon with the biggest mistake of the night, and he'll fall out of the top 3. Ethan Lane now comfortably second, and Nick Tarbuck for Domination Intimidation Racing all of a sudden is in third. Can you believe it? The number 4 has taken this long to get here, and now as the field comes toward the white flag, it looks like this is it. What a twist in fortune for the 44 of Cannon. It went from warmth in the tire to burning them straight up. But for Scott Eckridge, he has been indomitable. No other driver in his zip code all night long, and perhaps the best road course racing performance we've seen in the Octane Series. Starting on the pole position, leading every inch of the race. Trouble for Sam Nieto. It looks like he's going to be smoking. He gets back on the way here, and of course, he's looking to win outright. From the very first moment that we got this one going, from the pace laps to the checkered flag, Scott Eckridge was never touched, and he proved as a driver untouchable. The rookie in the number 70 has come out tonight, shocked the field by beating some of the veterans like Ethan Lane and Cannon, and not only did he beat them, he made them appear like they were in their own event. Out of touch and out of sight. Checkered flag will wave in his 3rd ever start, his 1st ever Octane Series victory. Scott Eckridge wins from Austin, Texas, and the checkered flag is his from the Circuit of the Americas West Grand Prix. Ethan Lane is still second and will come away the middle of the podium. The number 6 now going to make his move into the checkered flag, and for Nick Tarbuck, what a fortunate circumstance. He gets lucky, and to add to it, he just played the right cards to be in the right position. Tarbuck takes 3rd, as Lane, of course, gets P2, but Scott Eckridge is your winning man tonight. Number 70 goes to victory lane for the first time in his Octane Series career, and the results will show you he was dominant. Scott Eckridge wins and leads every lap on the day. Second place will be Ethan Lane, of course, in number 6, and Nick Tarbuck in 3rd. Eckridge leads all 47 laps by himself from pole. Blake Cannon comes away 4th after that spin with 3 laps to go. Bean finishes in 5th. Nicholas Ward comes away P6. With Jacob 5-6th, of course, he fell back to 7th. Nate Campbell will then be 8th, and you'll have 9th Kevin Bernheimer. 10th is Don Stevenson, concluding the top 10, starting from 15th. 11th place on the day will be Eric Thornton with Zach Scrinton all in 12th, Cody Smith 13th, and Woody Mahan 14th. It'll be Ross Cato 15th, Chad Micas 16th, John DeBarro 17th, Blake Gordon 18th, 19th, and Nolan Potter, Matt Sizzler 20th. And then from there, you'll have Brock Potter, Brian Yazik, Brad Patton, Jared Davis, Sam Nieto, Matt Jonas, Bobby Keith, Don Runkle, Josh Gallagher, and Richard Smith to end the top 30 as Chad Dillon, Randy Fiash, Eli Cars, Aaron Eads, Sean Kalist, and Paul Mikolajczyk with Taylor Story make up the 37 that started today. And now the number 70, your race winner, burns down the house. Eckridge with victory tonight. And now it's about time we get a word from the driver who got it done, of course, getting the checkered flag in only his first ever road course start in this league, and of course, his third ever start overall. Let's hear from the man who does it all, Scott Eckridge, with a dominant win, and we'll hear from the entirety of your podium right after him. But Scott Eckridge getting the race win tonight, of course. What a big one it is for the number 70 team, and gain that momentum for the rest of the season, including a chance at not only the playoffs, but the championship. Looking to see if Scott right now is in any of our voice chats. It looks like currently he is not, so we'll ask and get a word from him immediately. Waiting to see where the number 70 is. Scott Eckridge, the man of the hour tonight, and the number 70 collects the checkered flag. Ethan Lane and Nick Tarbuck you'll hear from right after this. Although it looks like, unfortunately, that these drivers don't find themselves in the right position, of course, to get an interview. But they did find themselves in the right position for the win. Eckridge, the top driver of the day, and we're waiting to hear from him right now. If anything, we'll move on to your second and third place drivers in Lane and Tarbuck. It looks like right now number 70 is not available for comments. And as such, for the time being, we'll talk to your second place driver first and foremost. And it looks like tonight, while he wasn't able to keep up for a second straight win on the week, Ethan Lane keeps the good times rolling in his 2025 debut. And Lane gets it all the way up to P2 to kick off his Octane Series campaign for the year. Ethan, second place on the day, and comfortably so. A battle there at the end with Blake Cannon, but you hung on to take the middle step of the podium.
Yeah, that race was tough. I thought we had pace comparing to practice, but Scott was just in another zip code tonight. Unequivocally, like insanely quick. Yeah, no, we held on to P2. That was fun battling Blake there at the start of the race, and then it was unfortunate that he spun out of that short chute coming onto that long straightaway right before that other basically U-turn. Or else it would have probably been funny. He probably would end up getting me, but we hang on a second, and yeah, it was fun, but tiring.
And no doubt about it, 47 laps, no breaks in between, and a brand new West configuration, as we call it. So how was it for you? We saw you here, of course, in previous seasons as a driver, and we've seen COTA with that full Grand Prix configuration. How'd you like this new look?
Much prefer the long one compared to the one we have on iRacing. The real life one definitely much better because you don't have to worry about that little kink, that left, left section. But it was fun. Just again, a very, very long race. A lot of shifting, a lot of throttle control, a lot of braking. Definitely will sleep really well tonight.
And it looks like, of course, just having to adapt to the big trouble of this new configuration. We did see something that surprised us in the broadcast booth. It was a one-stop strategy, but it wasn't split right down the middle. Everyone seemed to have their eyes on staying out the longest. What led to that inside the cockpit is your call.
I don't know. It was just once I kept seeing that we needed 9 gallons of fuel, I was like, all right, let's see what we can do. Trying to come out and not heavy traffic to not get slowed down as much, but we kind of dinged some fenders and the front bumper kind of got tore up a little bit, and I think that's what slowed us down a little bit. But we were just it was just a pit and get out as quick as possible to not lose as much time.
And everything works out for an average finish of 1.5 on the week, and you return to the Integrity Racing League. Now, of course, we know you're back with us on the Mondays and Tuesdays, so let's talk about what's next up on the Tuesday night schedule, and that will be Phoenix Raceway. So we'll head back to a 1-mile circuit, a little bit smaller. How do you feel about finding an oval once again in the Octane Series, the site of most of your 14 wins last year?
Yeah, Phoenix usually is a good track for me. Haven't really acclimated it to the Gen 7 car that well, but if we can get some clean air and just keep the tires on it, we should be quick next week.
Eyes fixed on what could be win number 16 of his Octane Series career. Ethan Lane, one spot short tonight in second. Any final comments you'd like to send out?
Again, another shout out to Scott, man. Another level he was on tonight, and then also Ryan. He tore through the field after having some bad luck the first couple laps. To you, David, putting on these broadcasts every week. I know it's a lot of work that goes into it, so it's fun to always just go back and watch. And then again, everyone over at Integrity, awesome field for a road course, especially probably one of the hardest ones we go to, other than the street course. So yeah, it was fun tonight. Looking forward to Phoenix.
Ethan Lane, P2 on the day here from the Circuit of the Americas. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
And now to hear from the man of the hour, the number 70 of Scott Eckridge. To qualify on the pole was one thing and put it there by a dominant margin, but to lead every lap and have practically no competition on the circuit tonight, you left them in the dust and won by 37 seconds, Scott. How does it feel? Your first road course in this league, and it seemed like it was, of course, a veteran's drive.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. These are really my tracks that I love. I love these road courses. Obviously, the oval's great too, but I really kind of thrive on the road courses, and I was very excited to be here tonight, and even more excited that they changed the layout and it'd be a little more technical.
And you mentioned that layout change using the West configuration tonight. Could you talk us through how that helped you, as it seems you're quite the fan compared to a few others we've heard from?
Yeah, I really enjoy it when it makes you kind of drive the car a lot more. And this is, the section linking the old with the West. It's very technical. You got to be very careful not to get the 1Xs, and I feel like it really falls into my wheelhouse, and it's just a ton of fun for me.
And everything working out when it turned out with that fun factor and the race speed. Now, tonight we saw pit strategy, perhaps the only time you even had a chance of losing the race lead there, but everything seemed rather comfortable. Something we noticed that we kept special focus on in the first half. 25 laps in, even more than 25 laps, you were running laps within a second of your qualifying time. Laps that still would have put you in the front two rows. Sometimes the next gens are a little less receptive to tire wear at the road courses. It seems that might have been the case for you.
Yeah, and it's not that they can't lose their time, because you definitely, if you punish them, you can definitely get there. But if you're careful and you just kind of drive it to, where you're not spinning the tires, they kind of hold on for a really long time. And then when you put fuel in them again, they come alive again. So it's they definitely don't punish you if you just, pay just a little attention to them.
It looks like just keeping in mind what to do with those tires made the biggest difference for the biggest gains. Now, with the win under your belt, next race is going to be a completely different track, a small oval in the Phoenix Raceway. Your rookie campaign off to a great start with his dominant win, but how do you feel about heading back to the left turns now?
Yeah, I mean, typically that's been a very good track for me, but this league's got a lot of stout competition. I think I'd be a little arrogant to say that I had a, even a real good shot, but I'm looking forward to. That's one of my more favorite tracks. So either way, it's gonna be fun.
Scott Eckridge getting the job done and in dominant fashion from flag to flag and everywhere in between. If you have any final comments you'd like to send out here to the audience, the floor is yours.
Yeah, just a shout out to the league for having us this year, and shout out to my boys on Loud Pedal Motorsports for everything they do for us every week.
Scott Eckrich, dominant in a first career victory here from the Circuit of the Americas. Thank you again for stopping by.
Thank you.
And while Scott Eckrich and Ethan Lane were no doubters tonight, perhaps the most expected, or rather unexpected man to speak to is the driver who finished in third, qualified sixth, and had a good race going, and we wouldn't have been surprised with a top five, but for Nick Tarbuck, the cards aligned, and everything came through at the last moments to come away third place. Welcome back to the podium.
Feels good to be back, man. Not the track I expected it, and definitely got lucky there at the end, but I will take it because it's competitive as all get out this season. So a podium's a podium, man.
And of course, even though it wasn't perhaps the most expected, a mistake at the very end for Blake Cannon brings you in. But even before that, you qualified sixth, and you were running top five for the majority of the day. And you mentioned it, of course, getting that best opportunity for a road course early here. How was it for you trying out this new COTA layout? We ran the Next Gens in 2023 with a long one, so this is pretty different in terms of length.
Yeah, no, first off, it was really, really cool, like, seeing, I mean, I know it's why we do it earlier in the season, to keep participation up, but it was really cool seeing a road course where, like, it was a packed field, so that was cool. It definitely added some strategy to it. But yeah, I mean, qualifying, you know, it's funny, last night I was practicing here for the first time, and I couldn't even get my like, shifting correctly. I couldn't even downshift correctly, so luckily I was able to pick that up today. But yeah, qualifying wasn't too bad. Got lucky to kind of get in the top 10 because it looked like, you know, there's a good separation between where I qualified and then the cars that qualified behind me. There's a good gap that built there. So it was really just a matter of me and Nick Ward trying to keep each other honest the whole time. And about halfway through the race, I was able to figure out something a little bit better and just had to hold on to it and not get too many incidents or anything.
And everything figured out, of course, for that final run to sneak right into the podium conversation here. Track conditions seemed to be favorable, very mild. Tire wear was something everyone had to keep a good watch on, though. How was it for you when it came to the tire saving strategy?
Yeah, I didn't do the greatest at it. I mean, I don't. I was going to take tires until somebody mentioned not taking tires, so I was really thrown off by that. You know, it didn't feel terrible. But I definitely could have left some grip in them by not pushing them so hard in the start of the race, especially the front tires. I really scrubbed those a lot. But I mean, it didn't handle too badly. I was still running my normal times, so like high 137s, low 138s. So I mean, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, saving tires was not in my plan. But I guess it worked out that I didn't absolutely kill them the first half of the run.
By all accounts, everything works out for a very strong finish at the first of our 4 road courses. So we head back to the ovals next week. Phoenix Raceway, a track you've been successful at before, and maybe a chance to bring another fast car to the circuit.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I have not been fantastic at Phoenix the past few trips there. I mean, that was a different car, I guess. But yeah, hopefully I can, you know, get back in the swing of things on ovals. I've had a little bit of a rough start, it seems, with either car on the ovals. So looking to get back into a little bit of a rhythm. I know it's a really competitive league this year. Got a lot of big names, a lot of fast guys in here, so it's going to be tough to get these podiums. But I'm gonna take them when we can. So maybe Phoenix will be a good chance to get another one.
Putting it back on the podium for an unexpected road course run and looking to bring it from there. Before we head to Arizona there, of course, Nick, if you have any final comments you'd like to send out, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, well, first off, I want to thank you for broadcasting, as always. Thanks for the admins for putting on a good race. Thanks, everyone, for showing up, making it a pretty populated server. Thanks to everybody who watched. I think Mom, Dad were watching. My wife, the boys back at home. I'm sure my son heard it. It's sleeping next to my wife listening. So, yeah, just thanks, everybody, tuning in, and hopefully we see you all next week.
Nick Tarbuck coming through for a podium finish and escaping the chaos at the very end for P3 in Austin. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
So you've gotten the word from your top 3 finishers, and tonight, while Tarbuck was maybe more unexpected, the same old ran up in front at these road courses. Always a no-doubter. Ethan Lane found himself second on the day, of course, and it was Scott Eckrich who got the job done. Victory lane once again for the number 70. Of course, for his first ever time in his Octane Series career, but a very familiar driver whipped the road courses. And so, the Circuit of the Americas comes to pass. Thank you for tuning in live on FTN for an exciting presentation from Austin, Texas. We'll be back, of course, for our next event Thursday night with the Iora Cup Series. But if you're tuning in to the Octane Series campaign exclusively, that's next Tuesday night, same time, same place, 9 p.m., live on FTN. We'll be at the virtual Phoenix Raceway, and we hope that you're all here with us once more as you've been watching tonight from the virtual Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Watching the Integrity OCTANE Series live on FTN Broadcasting, I've been your host, David Kreutz, commentating and producing. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Your support is always greatly appreciated. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Congratulations to Scott Eckrich, Ethan Lane, and Nick Tarba for scoring podiums, and Scott Eckrich particularly for his first ever Integrity Racing League win. We'll be back with the Ignite Series next Monday night as they go racing once again, and it's going to be another exciting event on their calendar coming from the Pocono Raceway and heading next to the Old Atlanta. And on Tuesday nights, the Octane Series as they return to the Phoenix Raceway. Thank you for tuning in tonight on FTN Broadcasting. We hope you enjoyed, and of course we hope you had a fantastic night.